Hi there everyone, welcome back to the Gateball Refereeing Info Center. Today we're going to be doing a very important video on referee calls and signs. I've got a few diagrams from the official rules and a few videos, but I'll be going through each of the calls that a referee, a linesman, an assistant referee that is, or a chief referee and a linesman will be making during the game. Before we start, we'd like to thank Gateball Australia for proudly endorsing this channel, as they always have, as well as the World Gateball Union for the use of their figures, tables, and other various sundries in their publications. So without further ado, we'll move right along. So the first call in the game is start of the game. So it's exactly when the point at which the game starts, either the point at which the timer begins as a result of just one match going on, or perhaps if several matches are going on across several courts, they might have a centralized timer and the chief referee will wait for the centralized timer to give warning and then call the start of the game. You'll see also here that it also says restart of the game. So should the game be forestalled for some reason, you would have to do this play ball call again. Now, this has changed from the old rules. So under the 2019 rules, the call is play ball, and it indicates to play. So the chief referee stands in the initial stance. The initial stance is pretty easy. It's quite self-explanatory here. The feet together at a 45-degree angle between them. The hands by the sides and the body in an upright position. The referee then, as we can see, after they have assumed the initial stance, announces play ball. Following the announcement of play ball, they change direction to the first player and call player number 1, which is Ichiban. And you can refer to the notifications on stroking under the rules. Now, it doesn't say it in this little diagram, but in another diagram, which I have not got here, it indicates who you're actually meant to be looking at while you're doing this. So you can see that the rule here tells you that you need to, after you've made the call play ball, that you need to turn to the first player and call Ichiban. Well, the reason it needs to tell you to turn there is because you're actually meant to say this call facing around player 5 or player 6 in the playing order. So you're on a little bit of an incline and you will perform the call. Now you'll note here that I don't have any diagrams which indicate that, and I also don't have any diagrams saying where you're standing. That's a subject for a future video, where you're standing on the court, that is, which is called referee positioning, and it's all an entire other video which is incredibly complex, so we'll go on that on its own. So that is the call play ball at the beginning of the game. Note that there is no hand movement, it is just the call itself. And you can see here the announcement of play ball is the only call, no hand gesture. Call out play to announce the resuming of a game, or to restart the game. So where we were restarting the game, we would just say play. Right, moving along. We will now move right to the end of the game, which is end of the game. The situation is the end of the game. The call is game set. And we can see there's a bit of a diagram here. There are 3 steps. The first step is always assuming the initial stance. The second step involves bringing the 2 arms from the initial stance with open palms of both hands and stretching both arms. Raise the hands as though drawing circles in the air on the left and on the right. We can see that here. When the arms are straight and up above the head, bend the elbows and cross the arms at the wrists. The call is made together with the hand gesture. It's important to know that, as this is it's incredibly important to know, not only for good practice, but also when you're taking your exams, the fact that the call is made together with the hand gesture. Gesture 1 and 2 are carried out in a single move. They're not separated. And the fingers should be close together. And you can see me over here, and I'm just going to describe how to, there's no volume to this, I'm just going to show you how it's done. So you can see I'm in the initial stance there. And you can see that we've drawn the hands up in one fluid motion to make the game set call. Rightio, moving along. The next call is the notification to stroke. I get quite a few questions on this one, and I think there's a lot of misinterpretation on what this specific little diagram, shall we call it, or cartoon, actually describes what you're meant to say. So, as we've discussed on the channel before, the primary language of Gateball is Japanese. So we can see here that it indicates in English first player, and then underneath that it says Ichiban. Ichi is the number 1 in Japanese, and ban is referring to the ball. Now, I think some people have been confused in the past and believe that you're actually, in English, when people referee, they'll say ball 1, which is correct enough. It is permissible to use English while refereeing in Australia. It's also permissible to use Japanese. You can use one of the two languages, as it is a bilingual, and more than bilingual game. But Japanese can be used anywhere in the world, and people will understand exactly what you're saying, as it is the game's primary language. But because we've got first player, people in Australia, when refereeing, will say ball 1, which is perfectly fine. But some people believe that you should say first player. This is incorrect. And the reason that people believe you should say first player is because it's indicated in these. We see first player, second player, third player, so on and so forth, to indicate the hand gesture. Now, it's just merely here to say that this is the sign for the first player, not that you should say first player. It's what's in the brackets, which is what's required. So one of the rules, the first player is Ichiban. Second player is Ni-ban. Third player, San-ban. Fourth player, Yon-ban. Fifth player, Go-ban. Sixth player, Roku-ban. Seventh player, Nana-ban. Eighth player, Hachi-ban. Ninth player, Kyu-ban. 10th player, Ju-ban. Now you'll notice that they're written in English the best that we can, but the sounds that are required, the sounds of the actual words are quite different from how they're written. Ichi, ni, are probably the easiest out of all of them, because there's no misinterpreting them. When you get to sun, even though it is spelt S-A-N, it's pronounced more like son, as in my son, or his son. Yon, Y-O-N. Go, not go, it's go. Number 6 is roku. Roku. Number 7 is nana, similar to how you'd say the back end of the word banana. The 8th player, hachi. Hachi. 9th player is kyu, spelled K-Y-U-U. Kyu. And the last one is ju. J-U-U. So, counting in Japanese, we can count the numbers quite easily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Simple once you get the hang of it. They're very easy. You only have to memorize these 10 numbers, and it's quite easy. And should you be refereeing in anywhere in the world, they will understand exactly what you're saying. Whereas perhaps if you're refereeing in English, there are many teams who will not understand what you're saying, as it is not a common language spoken in the gateball world, as far more players are in Asian countries. So we can see when making these calls, we assume the initial stance as always. Then for the 1st through 5th players, we can see that we hold up the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th or 5th fingers respectively. And then we can see for the 6th through 10th players, we raise 6 fingers, 7, 8, 9 and 10 fingers respectively. And we can see that it describes how to do it from the initial stance. Use the fingers to indicate the playing order, and raise one hand or both hands to the front of the body while stretching the arm. Stretch the arms upwards so that both arms are vertical. The call should be made together with the gesture, and the fingers are spread out. This fingers being spread out is very, very important, because it clearly indicates who you are indicating to stroke, or who you're calling to stroke the ball next in the playing order. And it's also convenient, and I know a lot of people don't do it, but it's very, very good for referees to wear white gloves. And the reason for wearing the white gloves is really to emphasize your hands in the contrast of the green background, which is often the grass that you're standing on, or perhaps the sky if people are looking in that direction towards your hands. Often people might not be able to hear you, so your hand gestures are incredibly important. So perhaps trying wearing white cotton gloves might help with this in some capacity. Moving along. Oh, there we are. The next is a player substitution. Player substitution is a gesture which is performed relatively infrequently, I would say, in Australia. We tend to not have enough people to fill up teams, let alone have substitutes. But when we do, it's important that the referee is in the know as to how to perform it. So we can see here, that the call is XX Bun Kautai, and this word is pronounced Kautai, K-O-U-T-A-I, Kautai. There are some alternate pronunciations of this word, but Kautai is probably the one that I've heard the most out of all of them. But anyway, we'll move along. The XX stands for any of the balls being called. So we'll use ball 8, for instance, in our example. Should we saying that ball 8 will be making a substitution, we would say the number 8, which is Hachiban Kautai, pausing after the comma, obviously. So to perform this, we need to be in the initial stance. We then make a fist with both hands and raise them to the chest with the back of the hands facing up and the elbows bent. We can see that here. And then we rotate the fists around each other in a circular motion. And you can go clockwise or anti-clockwise. The gestures are done together in a single move, So they're carried out in a single move. And the rotation needs to be done anywhere between 2 and 3 times. And the gesture is made together with the call. So we'll just see a little example of that. Perfect. So we can see that the initial stance is attained. Then we would say Hachiban Kautai should ball 8 be substituting. Very simple. Moving along. So the next gesture and hand signal is the interruption of the game. This one would be due to something like perhaps inclement weather. So should the weather turn so bad that it is unsafe to play or impossible to play the game, we would call time. And we can see the call is very, very simple. It's just time. Now, this one gets confused because for some reason, a lot of referees seem to think that this is what you call at the end of the game once time has gone. The chief referee does not call time. It is not the responsibility of the chief referee to call time at the end of the game. That is a responsibility of the recorder. So in order to perform this, we assume the initial stance. And to elaborate from what's going on here, you're basically forming a T shape with both hands. Very, very simple. The call should be made together with the gesture. They're done in a simultaneous manner. The gesture is in one motion, in other words. And the fingers should be close together. We'll just watch the little video here for a moment. Very simple. Moving right along. The next one is probably going to be the hardest one out of all of them, perhaps, but again, it's really not that difficult. I think some people struggle memorizing the words, but it's words that you've already memorized, especially with the gate numbers. You only need to memorize gate numbers 1, 2, and 3. So ich, ni, san are the only numbers you need to have memorized for the gates. Omitted from this, because this is an English translation, is the word die between the comma and this XX. Which we'll be using, but I will describe that in this little section down here. So the decision is whether if the referee, that's the chief referee, or the assistant referee decides that a successful pass has been made through a gate, they will call XX bun die XX gate tsuka. And this word is pronounced tsuka, and similarly bun, not ban, bun. So we can see that we assume the initial stance first. We then, from the initial stance, open the hand so that the back of the hand is facing up while bending the elbow, bringing the arm horizontally to the chest. And that's initial to step 1. Step 2, the final movement, move the raised palm horizontally in the direction of the pass. Now, there's a few notes to this one. The call should be made together with the hand gesture, as with the others before. Gesture 1 and 2 are carried out in a single move, so one fluid movement. The fingers should be close together. And the face moves according to the movement of the ball. Do not look away from the ball. Prepare for subsequent event. In this case, it should be events. So it's important that when we are performing this, that our arm moves in the direction of the pass, as well as our eyes should be maintaining focus on the ball in case that ball causes something else to happen. A touch. It leaves the inner field and enters the outer field, or so on and so forth. So, how do we announce each gate? Well, I'll use the X's first, but then I'll substitute a ball. So we say, for a ball successfully passing through gate 1, XX ban daiichi gate o tsuka. XX ban daiichi gate o tsuka. Passing through gate 2, XX ban dai-ni gate o tsuka. XX ban dai-ni gate o tsuka. And passing through the third gate, XX ban dai-san gate o tsuka. XX ban dai-san gate o tsuka. Now, you might notice that ich, ni, san are 1, 2, and 3 in the playing order. So it's exactly that. Ban, dai, gate o tsuka are exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the number of the ball which is in question and the gate that it's going through. So, we'll use ball 8 as an example again. Ball 8 passes through gate 1. The number for ball 8 is hachi. So we would say, hachiban daiichi gate o tsuka. Similarly for gate 2, hachiban dai-ni gate o tsuka. And for gate 3, hachiban dai-san gate o tsuka. Very, very simple once you get the hang of it. And we'll just see the video here showing how the gesture is performed. So were we performing this with the call, it would be as follows. Hachiban dai-ichi gate o tsuka, in the case of going through gate 1. Rightio, moving along. A successful finish, which is called a successful agari. Noting that this word is not agari, it is agari, and it denotes a finished ball. We can see that it is simple as that. We just use the ball in question, followed by ban to indicate that it is a ball, and then followed by agari, which indicates the word finish. We can see that it's an incredibly simple one to do. The initial stance is attained. From the initial stance, open both palms and raise them to the front of the body while stretching the arms. The arms are raised so that they form a V above the head. Simple as that. We'll watch the video here. Very, very simple. And again, easy. The call should be made together with the gesture. Gestures 1 and 2 should be carried out in a single move. The fingers should be close together. Those are all exactly the same as the last ones we've done so far, except for the number calling in relation to should the fingers be close together. The palms should be facing each other to form that V shape. If the number of the finished ball is unclear, the referee can announce agari, followed by XX ban. So that is if the referee can't denote exactly at the time, so if someone's sparking a ball onto the goal pole and the referee cannot see what that ball is until it's finished, well, if it is for the goal pole and it does finish, they can announce agari first and then can announce whichever ball in question, ban, at the end. Rightio, moving along. A successful touch. This is one we need to know the numbers for. It's incredibly important, and I get a lot of questions on this one when people have seen me refereeing in the past. And it's that people ask me, Anthony, when you're saying these, it sounds like you're always just saying the number 2 and touch. Well, it is a bit confusing, and the reason for that is because the word ni here is used to denote the fact that 2 objects are involved in the situation. So when we're saying XX ban ni touch, some people get confused because they think that although I said the number first, they might discredit that and just think that I'm always saying that ball number 2 is touching another one. Well, that's not the case in this situation. We can see that there are a few steps to this one. We can see that we assume the initial stance. From the initial stance, we form a fist, bend the elbow, and raise the fist to the shoulder. We can see that happening here. Stretch out the arm and use the index finger to point where the touch took place. It's important to know that we point where the touch took place, not at where the balls are now, not at where they're moving to. It's where the touch took place. And that's important because should a foul occur and they need to go back to where they were before the touch, where that pointing is where those balls will be placed. So we can just see a video of that. Very, very easy. So the call should be made together with the hand gesture. Gestures 1 and 2 are carried out in a single move. Only one call is required, even if several balls have been touched. Now, that one's a little bit of a interesting one, because that only refers to the back end, the knee touch bit of what's going on there. And I'll explain that in a minute. And if the number of the touch ball is unclear, the referee can announce touch followed by XX bun. So that's similar to the goal pole situation, in which if the referee doesn't actually know which ball was touched, they can call touch first to save time, and then can announce bun after they have found out which ball it actually was. So, in relation to this multiple calls one here, if multiple balls have been touched, if in this case ball 8 touches ball 2, we would say hachiban, hachi for ball 8, hachiban ni touch. So in relation to the multiple calls with this section here, in relation to several balls being touched, that refers to if one ball hits multiple balls. So we'll explain that one in a moment. I'll just explain what happens when you touch one ball and how it should be said with this, to give an example. So ball 8, we'll say actually, to reduce confusion, I will not use the 2 ball here. Let's use the 9. We'll pretend that this 2 is a 9 ball. So ball 8 touches ball 9. So the ball that has been touched is ball 9. So we would say the number for ball 9, which is Q. So Qban ni touch. Simple as that. Ball 8 has touched ball 9 is Qban ni touch. Now, this little note here is aimed at reducing the amount of words we need to use in relation to the ni touch bit of this call, because saying it for every single thing, every single ball in a multiple touch might take forever if you're touching 3 balls, for instance. So we'll say that ball 8 touches ball 9 and ball 10. Ball 10's number is Ju. Ball 9's number is Q. And ball 8's number is Hachi. Now, we don't announce ball 8 because ball 8 is being played by the stroker in question. So if we were to announce ball 8 touches ball 9 and ball 10, we would say Kyuban, Juban ni touch. We would not say Kyuban ni touch, Juban ni touch. We don't have to say the ni touch after every single ball in the same stroke. It's very, very important. That only counts in the same stroke. So we can't just cut off the back end of it for no reason over multiple strokes. It's just in the same stroke. Rightio, moving right along. The next one is a foul, pronounced, which is pronounced hansoku. Hansoku. And we can see it's probably the easiest out of all of them. It is assuming the initial stance, and then from the initial stance, we form a fist and raise it to the chin while bending the elbow. The call should be made together with the gesture. The outer fist should point at the stroker who has committed the foul, and the elbow should be held closely to the body. We'll just watch that one there. Very, very simple. We'll watch it again. And note that it is a quick movement. Rightio. Moving along. The next one is an out ball. Obviously this video doesn't have a moving ball in it, but we can just see how it works. So this is how you would denote an out ball. So from the initial stance, a foot is used to stop the out ball. Obviously that ball would usually be moving. One arm is raised to the front of the body while stretching out the arm. As you can see here, the arm continues to be raised until it is pointing straight up, as we can see here. The call is made together with a gesture. All the gestures are carried out in a single move. The fingers should be close together. If the number of the out ball is unclear, the referee can announce out ball followed by XX bun. We've dealt with that one in the past few little segments. The out ball is dealt with after the announcement. The announcement must be made first, and then the out ball is measured 10 centimeters from the inner field. Moving along. The next one is safe, and this is one of the very few, I think it's actually, no, it's the only call that has no words to it. There is no call. You just assume the initial stance, and then you open your hand so that the palm is facing down, and place the arm in front of the body while bending the elbow. Open and stretch the same arm outwards and put the palm diagonally in front. The fingers should be close together. Gestures 1 and 2 are carried out in a single move. And that's very simply done like this. Very easy. Moving along, very similar to this one, is stroking or sparking standby, or permission after it is given. Now this one doesn't have a call, but there are several words that you can use in English and in Japanese to indicate that you need to wait for a referee to complete other actions, or before another action is completed, so that we can continue the game. And this is informing a player to stop playing for a moment. So we can see from the initial stance, we bring the arm out in front, pointing in the stroking direction, and get the player to stand for a stroke or spark, to stand by for a stroke or spark. Ask the player to wait so that he or she stands by for the stroke or spark. Return to the initial stance and approve the stroke or spark. Permit the player to stroke or spark by saying proceed. This is one of the very few calls I would probably recommend you would do in English in Australia, only because the Japanese words for this are not very, very commonly used, and players might get a little bit confused by what you're saying. There are, you could say, the most likely one that you'd hear perhaps most commonly would be chotto matte, which would mean wait a moment, for wait, and then you can say one of a variety of words for proceed. For instance, yosh is probably the most commonly used one on TV and broadcasts of Gateball. We can see that the only note is that the fingers should be close together. So we're just going to watch the video here. Now please note with this one that you can do it how I've just done it then, withdrawing the hand between the two. But you can also have your hand out the entire time and physically block the player from playing. So a player would be standing just like 2 feet in front of you, behind you, sorry. So to the right of this image. And you can physically stop them with your hand and then remove your hand while saying proceed. That's also permissible. Well, thank you very much everyone for tuning in and watching another little video on referee calls and signs as well as gestures. I hope you've enjoyed the series so far, and we've got plenty of videos to come. The next one will most likely probably be a referee positioning, which is going to be quite a lengthy video, and that one's really, really important to ensure that referees understand their responsibility in relation to where they need to stand in order to referee effectively and under the rules and guidelines of the World Gateball Union. Thank you very much as always, and we hope to see you on a court sometime soon. Bye-bye.